Some questions change the temperature of a room. Not the loud questions, those announce themselves, arrive with context and preparation, give you time to set your footing before the ground shifts. The questions that change everything are the quiet ones, the ones that arrive sideways in the middle of something ordinary, disguised as curiosity when they are actually something much larger looking for a door. I have thought about that question, the specific one, the one that started all of this, many times since the night it was asked. I have thought about the particular quality of his voice when he asked it. The fact that he was looking at the ceiling and not at me. The fact that it came after 40 minutes of silence that had been perfectly
Hey,
comfortable
can I
and
ask
had
you
then,
something?
without
Yeah,
announcement,
what's up?
become something else.
Do you ever think about
What do
us?
boys taste like? 4 words casual on the surface, fathomless underneath. And I, Rayan Showri, 23 years old, gay since I was old enough to have the word for it, lying on my side of a shared dorm room in the dark, had to decide in approximately 3 seconds what to do with them. My name is Rayan, Pakistani-British, second generation, the specific product of a household where love was constant and cert, and expressed
What if we
primarily through
can't go
food and
back?
worry rather than language, and where
Maybe
the
we were
particular
never
truth about who I
supposed
was
to.
had taken time to become something I could say out loud. I came out at 20 to my older sister Sana first, who cried briefly and then said okay. Who is he, in the voice of someone who had
How did
already
that
worked
make
it
you
out and was
feel?
simply waiting for
I
confirmation.
think I'm still processing it.
To my parents at 21, which was harder
It's
and
a relief
longer
to
and
finally
involved
talk like
several
this.
months of
I know.
adjustment, and
It's good to
eventually,
connect.
gradually,
Definitely.
the specific grace of people who loved their son more than they loved the version of him they had expected. I was at
I've been
university,
thinking about what you
second
said.
year, studying
And
English literature with
you're
the
right.
specific
We need to talk about
intensity
it.
of someone for whom books had
I've thought
always
about
been the
this
safest
carefully,
place to understand
and I want to
things
share
the
it with
world
you.
outside hadn't given language for yet. And I was sharing a room in the specific lottery of second-year housing assignments with a boy named Finn Calloway. Finn, let me try to describe him accurately, which is harder than it sounds because accuracy requires a certain distance, and distance from Finn had always been something I struggled to maintain. He was 23, Irish, from a city on the west coast that he
The autumn light
described
here
with
is
the
amazing,
specific
isn't it?
love of someone
It's
for whom a
beautiful.
place
My
is
favorite time
not
on
just
campus.
geography
Mine
but
too.
identity, the
I can't keep
particular
pretending.
greenness of
You
it,
mean
the
everything to
weather
me.
that was
But what if we
consistently
ruin
dramatic,
everything?
the people
We
who
won't.
said
I'm
what
all
they
in.
meant and meant it thoroughly. He was studying civil engineering, which suited him in the way that some subjects suit people
I
not
want you
because
to
they
know
are
I'm
the
telling you
same,
this
but
from my
because
heart.
they complement each other.
It's the honest
Finn
truth.
was expansive and instinctive, and the
What if
precision of
everything you
engineering
thought
gave
you
his
knew
instincts
was
somewhere
just the
useful to
beginning?
go. He was tall, loose-limbed, with the kind of dark red hair that the light couldn't leave alone, and blue-gray eyes that changed quality depending on what he was thinking about, which I had noticed approximately immediately, and had been cataloging involuntarily ever since. He was funny in the quick, warm way of someone who had grown up in a
How's
household
the
full of
reading?
people,
All
and had
right.
learned humor
Yours?
as a form of connection rather
Same.
than
Quiet
performance.
day?
He
Yeah.
was kind, not effortfully, not as a project, just as a baseline. And he was, by every available piece of evidence, the girls he had mentioned from his first year, the easy way he talked about them, the complete absence of any apparent
Okay, next
conflict
question.
about his
Which
own
planet has the
identity,
most moons?
straight.
Jupiter, right?
I had filed this under
Yeah, that's it.
relevant and non-negotiable,
This is nice,
and had
just
proceeded
relaxing.
accordingly.
Yeah, it's perfect.
We had been
should
roommates
do
for
this
6
more
weeks.
often.
6
Definitely.
weeks of building the small architecture of shared space. Whose shelf was whose, who took the left and who took the right, the discovery that we both liked silence in the evenings and noise in the mornings, which is a compatibility that is rarer and more valuable than people credit. We had become in 6 weeks something that felt like genuine friendship, the kind that forms quickly when two people happen to be compatible in the ways that daily life requires. I liked him. I had been careful about the specific shape of the liking. And then came the Tuesday night in October. It was past 11. We had both been studying, he at his desk, me on my bed, and the
We need to
studying had
talk
wound
about what
down in the
happened.
organic way it
I
does
know.
when
I should've
concentration
told you.
finally gives out.
Yes, you should
And we
have.
had been
I'm
in the
sorry.
comfortable post-study silence
need
for
to tell
maybe
you
40
something true.
minutes. Lights off except for
really
the desk
appreciate
lamp
you
he hadn't
being
switched
here.
off yet. The campus outside the
I
window
appreciate
doing
you
its
listening
quiet
so
nighttime
carefully.
thing.
It's
I
important,
was
and your
reading,
presence
not for
means a lot.
study, for pleasure, which I
You
did
have to
late
take
at
this
night
chance,
when the
mate.
day had
Don't let
used up
fear
its
stop you.
requirements.
I know, but it's
He was
terrifying.
lying
What if
on
I
his
fail?
bed,
You
looking at the
won't.
ceiling in the way he sometimes did, the particular still quality of someone whose body had stopped but whose mind was still moving. I was not watching him. I want to be clear about that. I was reading my book and managing my situation with the practiced competence of a person who had 2 months of daily proximity experience and a well-developed internal discipline. And then, into the quiet without preamble or context
freezing.
or any
Glad
of the
we're
social
walking.
signals
Yeah,
that usually
the cold air's
precede a
nice.
significant
Reminds me
question,
of home.
he said,
And mine.
"Can I ask you something weird?" "You can ask me something weird," I said without looking up. pause.
This cold air
What do
makes me
boys taste
appreciate this
like?
warmth more.
I did not
Your
drop
hand is
my
the only
book.
warmth I
I
need.
am proud of this. My hands held the pages with the steady grip of someone who had just experienced a significant internal event and was managing the external presentation with everything they had. I looked up. He was still looking at the ceiling. His expression was the one I had come to associate with him, thinking about
Cheers,
something
talk soon.
complicated, a slight furrow between the brows, the jaw not quite relaxed. He had not looked at me,
Right,
which told me something.
that's settled then.
That's a
I can
very
finally
specific
breathe again.
question, I said. I know, he said, still
I
ceiling.
think that
Do
went
you want
as
to
well
tell
as it
me where
could.
it's coming from?
Yeah, you did great.
A long
Thanks for
pause,
being here.
long enough that I thought he was going to say forget it and roll over and the evening was going to proceed as if the question had not been asked. I've been thinking about something, he said, for a while, and I don't have anyone to ask about it, and you're...
Yeah, it's me.
He stopped.
I'm just walking
You'd
across
know,
campus
and
now.
you wouldn't make it
The
weird.
weather's awful. We need to talk
I wouldn't
later.
make it weird, I confirmed.
I know, I miss
He
you too.
finally looked
So
at
much.
me. His blue-gray
Yeah, that
eyes
sounds
in
lovely.
the dim room
I
were
can't
the
wait.
color of something complicated, not the easy blue of a clear day, but the gray blue of weather coming in, of a sky deciding what it wanted
Yeah,
to
I
be.
know, it's just hard.
I've been having
want to,
thoughts, he
but I
said,
need to think.
not about
Okay,
girls,
talk soon.
about someone specific
all
who
together
is,
now.
he stopped again,
Aye,
the
feels
pause
good.
of someone selecting words
It
very
does.
carefully. Not a girl, I said carefully. Not a girl, he said. The room held that for a moment. Okay, I said. I kept my voice the same as it had been before the question. This was important, the specific evenness of it, the signal that the temperature of the room was not going to change because of what he said.
So,
That's okay.
how are you finding the courses?
I know it's
They're
okay,
good, but a lot of
he
reading.
said, with
You?
the slightly
Same here, let's
defensive
study
quickness
together.
of someone
So,
who
your
knew
evaluation
something
of the proposal.
intellectually and was
It's
still
precise and
having a
promising.
different
The scope is well
experience
defined.
emotionally.
Good. And the timeline?
I don't
Feasible.
know what to do with it. It's not something he rubbed a hand over his face. I'm not explaining this well.
This event is
You're
so
explaining
lively.
it fine,
Yeah, I love the
said.
energy.
You're
Have you
having
tried the
feelings
food?
about someone
Not yet.
who
Looks
is
good.
a man, and it's
This
new
place
enough
feels
that
like
you
home.
don't have a framework
It
for
really
it yet.
does. Glad we
He
came.
looked at me. Yeah,
Me too.
he said that. And the question about what boys taste like is me trying to understand what I'm imagining, he said quietly.
Hey, you look
I don't
lovely
know what I'm
tonight.
imagining because I
too.
don't have a reference.
I've missed this.
I wanted to
Me
know
too.
if it's
How was your
different.
day?
He stopped.
Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
asking you
I
because
wouldn't have
you're
put it
safe.
anyway.
I'm not asking
It's
you
just
to.
the
He
honest way
stopped
to handle
again.
it.
I don't know why I said it that way.
And
Never
then he
mind.
just ran across the field.
I put my book down.
No way. That's
I looked
hilarious.
At my roommate,
I know, right?
Finn Calloway, 23, red hair and blue-gray, weather eyes, and 6 weeks of being someone I had been carefully not thinking about in certain ways. And I thought about 3 seconds and what they contained and what the honest and appropriate response to this moment was. It's different, I said, not better or worse, different, the way everything
so
is
glad
different
you're
when
here
it's
with
someone
us.
you actually
Thank
want
you.
rather
It's
than
wonderful
someone
to
you're
be here.
supposed to want.
Please,
I
eat.
paused. Is the someone you're thinking about someone I know? He looked at me for a long moment. Then he looked back at the ceiling. Yes, he said. The desk lamp hummed. Outside, a distant door closed somewhere in the building. The night continued its ordinary business. I understood. In the specific and comprehensive way that a person understands something they have been not understanding for 6 weeks because understanding it was not safe,
now.
that the someone was not a hypothetical. I did not say that, not that night. That night I said, it's okay to not know what to do with it yet. You don't have to figure it out
You
tonight.
think you understand, but you
Yeah,
don't.
he said, okay.
Then make me understand. Tell me the
Finn.
truth.
Yeah. Thank you for asking me. I know that wasn't easy. He was quiet for a moment, then, you didn't make it weird. Told you I wouldn't, I said. I picked up my book. He went back to the ceiling. The lamp hummed. The night held both of us in its particular dark, and we did not say anything else, and underneath the silence something had shifted that was not going to shift back. 4 words, that's all it took. 4 words asked at the ceiling in the dark by a boy with weather eyes who had been thinking about something and had chosen me as the person safe enough to ask. I had managed 6 weeks of daily proximity with the practiced discipline of someone who knew the rules. One question changed what the rules were managing, and I had to decide carefully, slowly, with full awareness of everything that could go wrong, what to do next. The next morning was a Wednesday, and we both had early lectures, and the specific mercy of schedule saved us from having to navigate the aftermath of the previous night across a breakfast table. He was up and
Hey,
out before I
can
had
I ask
fully
you something?
assembled myself.
Yeah, what's up?
He left
Do
coffee
you
in the
ever
shared
think
pot,
about
which he
us?
had started doing in week 2 without comment, and which I had started relying on with an embarrassing completeness. I sat at my desk with the coffee and my 8 a.m. and thought about the question and the ceiling and the yes that had answered my own question. The someone he was thinking about was in this room. I was almost certain of it. Not certain enough to act on it, not nearly, but certain enough that the almost was doing significant work in my chest all morning.
What if we can't go back?
I am a careful person.
Maybe we
I
were
want
never
that on
supposed to.
record because what follows can be misread as recklessness, and it was not recklessness. It was the specific carefulness of a person who understood precisely
did
what
that
was
make
at
you
stake
feel?
and moved with full
I think I'm
awareness
still
of every
processing it.
implication. What was at stake? Our
It's a
living
relief to
situation,
finally
which
talk
still
like
had
this.
7 months on
I
it.
know.
The
It's good
friendship,
to
which was
connect.
real and worth
Definitely.
protecting. His process, which was his and deserved space and time and the complete absence of pressure. And my own equilibrium, which
I've
had
been
been
thinking about
maintained
what
at
you
some
said.
cost for 6 weeks and
And
was now
You're
operating in a
right.
different set
We
of
need to
conditions.
talk about it.
I talked to my
I've
friend
thought about this
Priya
carefully,
that afternoon, my
and I want to
closest
share it with
friend
you.
at university, a South Asian woman in her 3rd year of psychology who had the specific skill of listening to everything and then asking the one question that reframed the entire situation. I told her what had happened. She listened without interrupting. "What do you want to do?" she said when I finished. "I want to give him space," I said, "to figure out what he's figuring out without me making it about what I feel. That's responsible,"
The
she
autumn
said.
light here is
"What do you
amazing, isn't
actually
it?
want to do?"
It's beautiful.
I
My
looked
favorite
at
time
my
on
coffee.
campus.
Mine
I
too.
want to tell him that the
I can't
someone
keep
he's
pretending.
thinking about
You mean
doesn't
everything
have to
to me.
think about it alone.
But what if we ruin
I said,
everything?
that
We
whatever
won't.
he's
I'm all in.
figuring out, he can figure it out knowing that what's on my end is real. "Is it?" she said. "It's been real since week 2.
I want you to
said.
know I'm telling
"I've
you
just
this
been
from my heart.
managing it."
It's
She
the honest
nodded.
truth.
"There's a difference between giving someone space and hiding."
What if
she
everything
said.
you thought
"Space
you
is
knew
for them,
was
hiding
just
is
the
for you."
beginning?
She looked at me. "Which one are you planning?" I sat with that question for the rest of the afternoon. We circled each other for a week. Not awkwardly, Finn was not constitutionally capable of sustained awkwardness, which was one of his qualities, and the ease of our daily
How's the
rhythm
reading?
reasserted itself
All
with
right.
the resilience
Yours?
of something that had been built
Same.
solidly.
Quiet day?
We ate
Yeah.
together, we studied in the shared silence that worked for both of us. We went to the campus common room on Thursday evenings for the standing trivia thing that neither of us was good at but both of us found entertaining. But there was something different in the space between us. Something
Okay,
that
next
had been
question.
added
Which
to it
planet
by the
has the most
question, and that
moons?
was present
Jupiter,
without
right?
being
Let me
named.
check.
The
Yeah,
way
that's it.
furniture that has been moved
This is nice,
in a
just
room is
relaxing.
present in the new
Yeah, it's
position
perfect.
even when you're
We should
not
do
looking
this more
directly
often.
at it.
Definitely.
He was processing. I could see it in the particular quality of his thinking about something complicated expression, which appeared during meals and during study sessions, and once memorably in the middle of a particularly easy trivia question that he got wrong because he was clearly somewhere else entirely. I gave him space, the real kind, not the hiding kind. On a Sunday evening, 10 days after the ceiling question, he came back from the library and sat at his desk and said without preamble, "Can I ask you something else?"
We need to talk about what
"Yes,"
happened.
I said.
I know.
"Did you?"
I should have
He
told you.
stopped, started
Yes, you should have.
differently.
I'm sorry.
"In the question I asked you,
I
the
need to tell
ceiling
you something
question."
true.
He was not looking
I
at the
really
ceiling
appreciate
this
you
time,
being
he
here.
was looking at his desk. "When I
I
said the
appreciate
someone
you
was
listening
someone
so
you knew,
carefully.
did you?" He
It's
stopped
important,
again.
and your presence means a lot.
"Yes," I said.
You
He
have to
looked
take
at
this
me.
chance, mate. Don't
"I
let fear
understood
stop
what
you.
you meant,"
I know,
I
but
said
it's terrifying.
carefully.
What if I
"I
fail?
wasn't
You
certain.
won't.
I'm still not certain, but I understood." He looked at me with the blue-gray eyes that were doing the weather thing again. "You didn't say anything." "It wasn't mine to say," I said. "It's yours. It was always yours." He was quiet for a long moment. "What if I'm wrong about what I feel?" he said. What if I'm just confused and I make it something and then I find out I was wrong and I've changed something that shouldn't have
It's
been
freezing.
changed?"
Glad we're walking.
This
Yeah,
was the real
the cold
question,
air's nice.
not what
Reminds
do
me of
boys
home
taste
and
like.
mine.
That had been the approach vector, the thing that gave him a way in. This was what was underneath it, the fear of being wrong, the fear that
This
feeling
cold air
something
makes me
new was
appreciate
not the
this warmth
same as
more.
knowing something
Your
true.
hand is the only warmth I need.
"Can I tell you something?" I said. "Yes." When I was figuring out who I was, I said, I was terrified of exactly that, being wrong, saying something was true and then discovering it wasn't. And the thing I learned, which took a while, is that you don't have to be certain before you're allowed to explore. Certainty comes from exploration, not the other way around. I held his gaze. You don't have to
Cheers,
know
talk
everything to
soon.
be allowed to feel something. He looked at me for a long moment. "Rayan," he said.
Right.
"Yeah.
That's settled then.
I've been thinking
I
about
can finally
you,"
breathe
he
again.
said, specifically, not as an abstract category.
I think
you,
that went
he
as
said
well
it
as
with
it
the
could.
directness that was his
Yeah, you
most
did great.
consistent quality,
Thanks for
the
being
thing
here.
that didn't change even when everything else was uncertain. "I've been thinking about you since about week 3, and I've been trying to work out what to do with it for a month." The room was very quiet. "I know," I said. "You know." I
Yeah, it's
suspected,
me.
I said.
I'm just
I didn't
walking across
assume,
campus
but I
now.
suspected.
The weather's awful.
And you
We
didn't
need to
say
talk later.
anything. No,
I know, I
said,
miss you
because
too,
you needed to
so
get there
much.
on your own
Yeah,
terms.
that sounds
Me saying
lovely.
something
I can't
before you
wait.
were ready would have been about me, not about you. I looked at him. Is this you being ready? He was quiet for a moment. The
Yeah, I
blue-gray
know, it's just
eyes, the
hard.
desk lamp, the
I want
Sunday
to,
evening
but I need
campus
to
sounds
think.
outside.
Okay, talk soon.
I don't know what ready
We're
looks
all
like,
together
he
now.
said. I've never been here
Feels
before.
good.
That's okay,
does.
I said. What does right now look like? He thought about it, like I want to stop pretending I haven't been thinking about it, he said, and stop performing normally when something has clearly changed. He looked at me with the directness, and like I want to know what comes next. What comes next, I said, is that we take it slowly, because you're figuring something
So,
out
how
and
are you
that
finding the
deserves
courses?
time.
They're
And because
good, but
I'm
a lot
not
of reading.
interested in
You?
anything
Same
that
here, let's
moves
study
faster
together.
than
So,
honesty.
your evaluation of the proposal.
Slowly, he
It's
said.
precise and promising. The
Slowly,
scope
I
is well
confirmed.
defined.
Good. And the
He
timeline?
nodded.
Feasible.
Something in his posture changed, not dramatically, just the specific release of someone who has been carrying tension they've now
This
been
event
given
is so
permission
lively.
to set down.
Yeah, I love the energy.
Rayan,
Have
he
you tried
said.
the food? Not
Yeah.
yet. Looks good.
The question
This place
I asked,
feels like
the
home.
ceiling question.
It really does.
Yes.
Glad we came.
I wasn't
Me
asking
too.
academically, he said. I looked at him, the lamplight, the red hair, the weather eyes with the specific quality they had when he
Hey,
was
you
being
look lovely
entirely
tonight.
honest.
You too.
I know,
I've
I
missed
said,
this.
I know you
Me
weren't.
too. How was your
He
day?
held my gaze for a moment.
Yeah, that's right.
Then he
I wouldn't
said,
have put it
very
any way.
quietly,
It's
I
just
think
the
it
honest way to
tastes
handle
like
it.
wanting something you didn't know you were allowed
And then
to
he
want.
just ran across the
The
field.
words landed in the room
No
and
way.
stayed there,
That's
warm and
hilarious.
searched.
I know, right?
Yes, I said, that's exactly what it tastes like. He told me he'd been thinking about me since week 3. He said my name like it was specific, not a category, not a concept. Me, Rayan, the someone in his ceiling thoughts had a name and the name was mine. And I had managed 6 weeks and then 10 days with the discipline
I'm so
of
glad you're
someone
here
who
with
knew
us.
what they were protecting.
Thank you. It's wonderful
now
to
I had
be
to
here.
figure out what
Please
we were
eat.
building instead. Slowly it turned out was exactly the right pace. Not because either of us was uncertain about what was there. I had been certain about my end for long enough that the certainty had worn grooves in my interior landscape. And Finn, once he had said the thing out loud, demonstrated with his characteristic directness that he had been holding something real and not merely confused. But because there was a process that deserved to happen properly, and rushing it would have been a disservice to both of us. He needed time to understand
I've been thinking
himself.
about this for
Not
a
me,
while
that
now.
part he seemed to have clear. But the larger architecture of what this meant about who he was and what he wanted and how the things he had always assumed about himself fit with the new information. I understood that process from the inside.
You think
I
you
knew what it
understand,
required.
but you don't.
Space, honesty, the
Then make
company
me
of someone who
understand.
would
Tell
not
me the
rush you
truth.
toward a conclusion or retreat from the discomfort of the in-between. I was that company. I tried to be anyway, with full awareness of the specific challenge of being both the person someone is figuring things out with and the person they are figuring out whether they want. We talked more than we had in the previous 6 weeks, not because we hadn't talked before, but because the conversations now had different access, went to different floors of the building. He talked about growing up and what he'd assumed, and the specific way assumptions live in you without announcing themselves until something challenges them. He talked about his family, a large, warm, loud household that he loved and that he was beginning to think about in the specific way of someone who has something new to eventually introduce to a familiar world. I talked about my version of that process, the specific experience of carrying something internally for years before it found external language, the LGBTQ+ community at university, the spaces
Hey,
that had existed
can I
that I had
ask
been
you
part of
something?
and that had been,
Yeah,
in
what's
ways
up?
I didn't fully
Do you ever
appreciate until
think
I was
about
inside
us?
them, genuinely necessary. I talked about the difference between being alone in something and being in a community of people who understood it. Do you go, he said, to those spaces? I used to go more, I said. It mattered a lot in first year, less so now because I have other anchors. I looked at him. But it might matter to you being around people who are figuring out similar things. He considered that, maybe, he said, not yet, I'm
What if we
still,
can't
he
go
made a
back?
gesture that meant in the middle of it,
Maybe we were
still
never supposed to.
processing. Processing is valid, I said. He looked at me, you're very patient. I've been managing feelings about you for 6 weeks,
How did that
I
make
said.
you feel?
Patience is what I had.
I think I'm still
He
processing it.
laughed, the warm, quick laugh that I had been storing
It's a
since I
relief to
first
finally
heard it
talk
through
like
the
this.
wall.
I
6
know.
weeks,
It's good
he
to
said,
connect.
and you said
Definitely.
nothing. Nothing useful, I said. I thought about you constantly and said nothing useful. What stopped you?
I've been thinking
The
about
same
what you
thing
said.
that should have, I
And
said. You didn't
you're
seem
right.
available,
We need to
and
talk
even
about
if
it.
the door had been open, I'd have
I've
needed
thought
you
about
to
this
open it.
carefully,
Coming out is yours.
and I want to share
It's
it
not
with you.
something someone does to you by telling you what they see. He was quiet for a moment. That's thank you for that. He looked at me with the blue-gray eyes, for waiting for me to open it. Thank you for opening it, I said. The first time he reached for my hand, it was a Thursday evening in November. We were walking back from the common room, the trivia thing, which we had come last and again with the cheerful resignation of people who had accepted that trivia was not their skill set, but was worth doing for other
The autumn
reasons.
light here is amazing,
It was
isn't it?
cold. The
It's
specific
beautiful.
November
My
cold of the
favorite time
campus
on
at night
campus.
when the wind
Mine
finds the
too.
gaps between
I
buildings.
can't keep
And he
pretending.
reached over
You
and
mean
took my
everything
hand
to
with
me.
the ease of
But
someone
what if we
doing something
ruin
they had
everything?
decided
We
and was
won't.
not
I'm
going to
all in.
second guess. I did not say anything. I held on. We walked back to the building in the cold, and neither of us mentioned it.
I
and
want
it
you to
was,
know I'm
for that
telling you this
reason,
from my heart.
perfect.
It's
In
the
room,
honest
he said,
truth.
was that okay? That was very okay.
What if
I said.
everything you thought you
He
knew
smiled,
was
the
just the
unguarded
beginning?
one. Good, he said. I've been wanting to do that for a while. How long is a while? He thought about it. Week 4, he said, give or take. Week 4, I said, that's impressive. Restrained. I had reasons to be restrained, he said. I was
How's the
still
reading?
figuring things out.
All right. Yours?
And now,
Same. Quiet
he
day?
looked at me.
Yeah.
I figured out the part that matters, he said. The part about you, the rest I'm still working on, but I know what I want. What do you want? I said, not performing surprise. I knew the answer, but wanting to hear it clearly.
Okay, next
You,
question.
he said,
Which planet
simple,
has the
direct,
most moons?
entirely
Jupiter,
Finn.
right?
I
Let me
want to
check.
do this
Yeah, that's it.
properly and honestly, and
This is
without
nice,
either of us
just
pretending
relaxing.
we don't
Yeah,
know
it's
what's
perfect.
happening.
We should do
No
this more
pretending,
often.
I said.
Definitely.
No pretending, he said. He came out for the first time in December. Not publicly, not with an announcement, not with a declaration to the wider world. Privately to his closest friend from home, a person named Dev who he trusted with the specific trust of a decade of friendship. He told me about the call that evening, sitting on his bed with his phone still in his hand and an expression that was simultaneously tired and relieved in the way of someone who has climbed something and made it. How did he take it? I said. He said he'd always thought I was too interested in figuring other people out to have
We need to
figured
talk about
myself
what
out,
happened.
Finn said.
I know.
And
I
then
should
he
have told
said
you.
he loved me
Yes,
and
you should
asked
have.
if
I'm
I was
sorry.
happy.
I
Are
need
you?
to tell you something true.
He looked at me across the
I
room.
really appreciate
I'm
you
getting
being
there, he said. I'm more okay
I
than I
appreciate you
expected to be,
listening
which
so
is,
carefully.
he stopped.
It's important.
I thought it
and
would
your
feel
presence
like
means a
something
lot.
was ending. It feels like
You have to
something
take this
starting.
chance, mate. Don't let fear
I thought
stop
about
you.
my own
I know, but
version
it's
of
terrifying.
That, the
What if I
specific
fail?
quality
You
of
won't.
something starting. Yes, I said, that's what it feels like. He told his sister at Christmas. He went home for the holiday and called me the second evening from a quiet room with the expression of someone who needed a familiar voice. His sister had cried, he told me, not sad crying, the kind where you cry because something true has been said and the truth is a relief. She asked if there was someone, he said. What did you say?
It's freezing.
I said.
Glad we're walking.
I said yes,
Yeah,
he said.
the cold
She
air's
asked
nice.
if I was
Reminds
going
me
to
of
tell
home
her about
and
him.
mine.
I said eventually. Eventually, I said. She's going to love you, he said, for the record. I thought about my
This cold
own
air
sister
makes me
Sana
appreciate
and
this
her
warmth more.
okay, who is he
Your hand
and the
is the only
specific
warmth I
grace
need.
of a sibling who receives the truth as if they had been waiting for it. I hope so, I said. She will, he said, with the certainty that was his. January brought the new semester and a small, significant thing, he told someone at university. Not a broadcast, not a social media announcement or a conversation
Cheers,
with the whole
talk soon.
floor. Just one person, his closest friend from the engineering program, a straightforward guy named Marcus
Right,
who responded
that's
with the
settled then.
specific brevity of someone
can
for whom
finally
the
breathe
information
again.
did not change anything important. Cool. Does
I
this
think
mean you're done
that went
complaining
as
about
well
the
as it
second-year
could.
girls group
Yeah,
project
you did
now?
great. Thanks for
Finn
being
came
here.
back to the room laughing. He told me what Marcus had said and I laughed with him and thought about all the versions of that response. The people who had said versions of cool to me at 20 and how those small unimpressed reactions had been, in their own way, as valuable as the more
Yeah, it's
effusive
me.
ones
I'm just
because they
walking
meant the
across
thing
campus
was
now.
ordinary.
The weather's
Not a
awful.
crisis,
We need to
just
talk
a
later.
fact. How does it feel,
I know, I miss
said,
you too.
saying it to
So
people.
much.
He
Yeah,
thought
that
about
sounds
it
lovely.
honestly.
I can't
like
wait.
I'm learning a new language, he said. The words are new, but the thing they're describing was always there. I thought about coming
Yeah,
out
I know,
as a
it's just
linguistic
hard.
process,
I want to,
finding words
but I
for
need to
something
think.
that existed
Okay,
before
talk
the
soon.
words did.
We're
That's
all
a good
together
way to
now.
describe it, I said.
Aye, feels good.
I had a good teacher, he
It
said.
does.
You figured it out yourself, I said. With company, he said, the figuring out is yours, the company matters. In February, on a Saturday evening that had no particular significance except that it was warm for February, and we had taken a walk along the canal path that ran near the campus and come back with the loose-limbed ease
So,
of people who
how
had
are
been
you finding the
outside in the
courses?
cold
They're
and are
good,
now
but a lot
warm
of
again.
reading. You?
Same
He
here,
said
let's study
Reagan.
together. So, your
Yeah.
evaluation of the proposal.
I love you.
It's precise and promising.
We
The
were in
scope
the
is well
middle of
defined.
making tea.
Good. And the timeline?
He was standing
Feasible.
at the counter and I was sitting at the desk, and it came out with the uncomplicated directness of something he had been thinking about and had
This event
decided
is
to
so
say when
lively.
the moment was right.
Yeah, I love
And
the energy.
moment was
Have you tried the
apparently
food?
this ordinary
Not yet.
Saturday
Looks good.
in February with
This
the
place
kettle
feels like
heating
home.
and the February
It really
darkness
does.
outside.
Glad we came.
I looked
Me
at him.
too.
He was looking at me with the blue-gray eyes and the direct expression and the complete absence of second-guessing that meant he had thought about
Hey,
it
you
and
look
was
lovely
certain.
tonight.
I
You
know,
too.
I said.
I've missed this.
I know
Me
you
too.
know, he
How was your
said.
day?
I wanted to say it anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Say it
I
again,
wouldn't put
I
it
said.
anyway. It's
He
just the
smiled.
honest way to handle
I love
it.
you, he said. Specifically,
And then
not
he
as a
just ran
category,
across the
you,
field.
Ray and Show
No
Ray,
way.
who managed
That's
feelings for
hilarious.
6
I know,
weeks with
right?
extraordinary discipline and made me feel safe enough to ask a weird question at the ceiling. I got up from the desk. Finn Calloway, I said, who knocked on a question that opened everything. He crossed from the counter to where I was standing, and the distance between us, which had been managed and measured and carefully maintained for months,
I'm so glad
was
you're
no
here
longer
with us.
something to maintain.
Thank you. It's wonderful to
I
be here.
still want to know,
Please
he said
eat.
quietly. The ceiling question I want to find out. You will, I said. When? When the kettle's done, I said. He laughed. The full one. In the warm February room with the canal path cold outside and the steam from the kettle and my sister's eventual voice saying, okay, who is he somewhere in my memory like something that had always been waiting to be answered. The kettle clicked off. Spring came
been
the
thinking
way
about this
spring
for a
comes
while
on a
now.
university campus. Suddenly, as if the season had been held back and was making up for lost time, the trees doing everything at once, the campus filling with people
You
who
think
had
you
forgotten
understand,
what it
but you
felt like to
don't.
be warm and
Then
were
make me
relearning it
understand.
with
Tell me the
visible
truth.
gratitude. We walked to lectures together. We sat in the library at neighboring desks on the long study evenings that the semester required. He came to the LGBTQ+ Society's spring social with me, not as a statement, not with any fanfare, just as himself, which was all he had ever been, which was all that was ever required. He met Priya, who evaluated him with the precise attention she brought to everything important, and told me afterward, he's going to be fine. He has the specific kind of confidence that comes from knowing who he is and not needing anyone else to confirm it. He's still figuring it out, I said. He knows what matters, she said. The rest is just details. He met my sister Sana over a video call in April. She said finally before he had introduced himself, which made him laugh. And then she asked him 3 questions in rapid succession that were Sana's version of the parental interview, and which he answered with his characteristic directness and came through on the other side with her
Hey,
approval, which
can
she
I ask you
expressed by
something?
saying,
Yeah,
he's
what's
good,
up?
Rayan.
Do you ever think about us?
Planning to, I said. He met my parents in May. This was the conversation I had prepared for with more care than most. My parents had traveled a significant internal distance in the 2 years since I'd come out and were in genuinely good territory, but meeting someone was different from knowing someone existed in the abstract, and I wanted it to go well with the specific want of someone for whom both things, my parents and Finn, mattered. My mother made food, an enormous amount of food, which was the language of love in our household, and which
What if
Finn
we can't
encountered
go
with the
back?
appreciation of someone who had grown up in a
Maybe
family
we were
that
never
also said
supposed
important
to.
things through what they put on the table. He ate everything. He asked my mother about the recipe for the dal genuinely, with follow-up questions about the spice combination that made
How
her
did
look at
that
him
make
with
you
the
feel?
expression she wore when she had
I
decided
think I'm
something.
still processing it.
My father asked him about engineering.
It's a relief
They
to
talked
finally
about
talk
infrastructure
like this.
for 30
I know.
minutes with the
It's good to
animation
connect.
of 2 people
Definitely.
who shared an interest in how things were built. I sat between them and watched and thought about constraints and the things you can't control,
I've
giving
been
things
thinking
their
about what you
character.
said.
After
And
they left, my mother
you're
said,
right.
he
We need to
listens when
talk
you
about it.
talk. Yes, I said,
I've thought
he
about
does.
this carefully.
And he asked
and I
about
want to
the
share it with
recipe,
you.
she said, not to be polite because he wanted to know. That's him, I said. He's curious about things. She looked at me with the expression that contained all the distance traveled and the arrival at the other side of it. Keep him, she said. Which was exactly what Sana had said. I was planning to. On an evening in June, at the end of the academic year, we were sitting on the roof of the building, an accessible flat section that the building management
autumn light here is
technically
amazing, isn't
discouraged,
it?
and that
It's
everyone
beautiful.
used
My favorite
anyway,
time on
with
campus.
the city
Mine
visible
too.
in every direction.
can't keep
and the
pretending.
June warmth
You mean
being
everything to
generous
me.
with the last
But
of
what
the
if we
daylight.
ruin everything?
He
We
said,
won't.
I
I'm
want
all
to
in.
ask you something. You can ask me something, I said. The ceiling question, he said, the one that started this.
I want you to
Yes.
know I'm telling you this
Now
from my
that
heart.
I know the answer,
It's
he
the
looked
honest
at me.
truth.
Was it what you said, that it tastes like
What if
wanting
everything
something
you
didn't
thought
know
you
you
knew
were allowed to
was
want?
just the beginning?
I thought about 6 weeks of management acknowledgement and a question at the ceiling and all the months that had followed. I thought about slowly and the hand in November and the February Saturday and everything we had built in the space between a weird question and the answer it had opened.
How's the
More
reading?
than that now, I
Alright,
said.
yours?
Now it tastes like
Same.
something I get
Quiet
to
day?
keep.
Yeah.
He looked at me with the blue-gray eyes and the direct expression and the June light making his red hair do the thing the light always did to it. Good answer, he said. You started it, I said. Best question I ever asked,
Okay, next
he
question.
said.
Which planet has
The
the
city
most
spread out
moons?
below us,
Jupiter, right?
enormous and
Let me check.
indifferent and
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's it.
The year was ending.
This is
The
nice,
next
just
one was
relaxing.
beginning. And
Yeah,
on a
it's
rooftop in
perfect.
June,
We
Finn
should do
Calloway
this
and
more
Ray and
often,
Showry held
definitely.
on to each other in the long summer light and let the question that had started everything be exactly the size it had always been. 4 words, casual on the surface and everything real underneath. He asked a weird question at the ceiling, and it opened a door neither of us could close again. I managed what I felt with care and patience and the slow-release discipline of someone who understood what was at stake. He figured himself out with courage and directness and the company of someone who refused to rush him. And what we built in the space between the question and the answer was something neither of us had planned, and both of us had, in different ways, always been building toward. Not love at
We need
first
to
sight,
talk about what
love at
happened.
first honesty,
I know,
the
I
slower
should've told you.
kind, the real
Yes, you
kind,
should've. I'm
the
sorry.
kind that tastes like something
I
you
need
get
to tell you
keep.
something true.